Hello guys and welcome to a new video. In today's video I'm going to tell you everything about the useEffect hook in React. So just stay with me and watch this video till the end. So here I have added some boilerplate code for you guys, and there are just 3 buttons and a couple of states. If you watched my previous video about useState hook, then you would definitely understand this code. It's very basic. And in this video what I'm going to do is I'm going to load a couple of data types from the JSON placeholder server and just console log them, and depending upon which button we click, and we're going to use a useEffect hook for that to load the data. So let's start. So first thing we need to do is to import the useEffect hook from the React library, and here we'll say useEffect, and then the next thing is to use that hook here. So useEffect hook is basically like a function, and it takes another arrow function as an argument. So here just to show you guys, whatever is in this function runs on every render. So whenever a React component is rendered, whatever is in the useEffect hook, that actually just runs. Okay, so here I'm going to console log render for just to explain you guys. So I'll say render, and so here you guys can see the controller log. It has, because since this component has rendered only once, so we can see here there is render is written here once, console log here once. Okay, whenever we click a button, since whenever we click the button, there nothing is changing. So I have opened developer tools here. As you guys can see, and what I'm going to do, because if we refresh this page, once the component is getting rendered, we can see render outputted here. So if we want to re-render this page, we have to change any of the state and the page will just re-render. So I'm going to quickly create this function here. So I'll say set data type, and data type is set to the type this function gets as an argument. So here we'll just say set data type and pass in the name of this button as a type. So it's going to be to do's. Similarly, I'll just copy this and paste it here a couple of times. And change this value according to the button. So for the albums it will say albums, and for the post it will just say post. Okay, so now whenever the button is clicked, a state data type is being changed. So whenever any state changes in React, if you don't know, the component just re-renders. So technically whenever a button is clicked, this useEffect function is going to run. Okay, so we'll just click to do's. So you can see render here. Similarly, when we click albums, we are also seeing render here, and similarly when we click post, another render is being logged on the console. So now what if we want to just run this useEffect only once whenever the component has renders for the first time, and we don't want to run this useEffect on every render? So for that, what we'll just say, we'll add another argument here in this useEffect hook, and it will be an empty array. And what it means is that this useEffect does not depend upon any of the dependencies, and it is only going to render whenever the component is mounted or rendered for the first time. Okay, so now it should just render console log render only whenever it is being rendered for the first time. So if we refresh the page, okay, so we'll just click to do here, and it should not render any output render on the console. And similarly you can see here's nothing is happening, and I'll just refresh this page and now click. So you can see now it is not outputting or console logging render whenever we click any button, since we have added no dependency for the useEffect hook, and it will just render whenever the component is being mounted for the first time. So now What if we want to just run this function in the useEffect hook whenever some of any of the in fact a state changes or multiple states can change? So what we're going to do is we are going to add a dependency here. So we'll say data type. So what this means is whenever this state is being changed, the data type state, so this console log will be outputted here, and this useEffect function will run. Okay, so let's now click albums and post and similar to dos. So you can see we have console log render 3 times, and this is very useful. In fact, more useful I would say than the lifecycle methods in the class components, since those are quite complex, and I would say not that accurate depending upon our use case. But use effect hook can be used however you want and wherever we want. Okay, so we can add multiple functions. If you just want to know, we can add multiple hooks here. Like we can add another function here, use effect function, and remove this dependency. So it will, and just say change data type here. So this hook will only run when the component is first mounted, and this hook will run whenever first it will run when the function is mounted with the default value, and the second time it will run whenever a state is changed. Okay, so whenever this state is being changed, this function will run, and this function will only run whenever the component is mounted for the first time. Okay, so we refresh this page, and we can see, and once we click, you can see change data type, but this render is not being run. Okay, so clear. And now one more thing with the use effect hook is that sometimes we need to perform cleanup as well. Like if you are familiar with the class components, then we have a function called the component with will unmount. That is the lifecycle method, and that is quite useful in cases if we add an event listener on the window object or something like that, then we have to remove that listener just to keep everything light, and don't make it a laggy component. Okay, so for that to implement that in useEffect, it is quite simple. We just need to return that function which we want to perform the cleanup. Okay, so we just let's say call it cleanup. So what this function will do is whenever this useEffect is being whenever a component is going to mount again, this function will first perform the cleanup for whatever we done with the previous useEffect in the previous render, and then we will add that thing again in the new render. So it is very useful if you want to add any event listener to the Windows object, and similarly you have to remove that in this cleanup function just to keep everything lightweight, and so it does not affect the performance. Okay, so let's add some actual API calls here. So here we have the JSON placeholder API, and we'll just quickly go here and copy this and paste this in this useEffect. Okay, and we are going to replace this to dos with what I can say, we're going to replace this with the data type. Sorry, I just made a mistake here. Okay, so first let me fix this. Okay, so it's fixed now. Now we're going to replace this with the data type here, and then console log that the response. Okay, so whenever the data type changes, we have whenever the data changes, we have a side effect which just goes to the JSON placeholder and fetches the relevant data for us. Okay, and then console logs that. So we are going here in our React app, save this first, and now if we can see here, the first one is to dos. So it has automatically loaded a couple of to dos for us. So now let's just refresh this page fun. Okay, so okay, also we need to remove this one here, because it means that we are only fetching just one to do. Okay, so now once we refresh this page, so we can see the to-dos are automatically being loaded from the server when it first runs, because that is the default value of the data type, and the useEffect runs on the render with that specific value of the data type. Okay, so it has loaded around 2 or 300 to-dos here for us. We can have a look at it as well, or I think we can just add a one here, just to make it more readable for us. Okay, so yeah, now we can see a to do here. It is completed, ID, title, and its user ID. Okay, and similarly we can also load album. So once it clicks here, it has loaded another album for us, and it is an album. And similarly, once we click post, so it has loaded a post for us, and it is a post with a body, ID, title, and a couple of other attributes. Okay, so that is how the useEffect hook works. We can add multiple useEffect hooks, and it makes our workflow with React very continuous and very flexible. So that is all for today's video now, guys. And if you like this video, then don't forget to subscribe this channel and press the like button. And I've also added another video for the useState hook, and the link is given in the description as well. We have another card at the end of this video, so do check that out as well. So bye for now.